Another day, another video. So today we're going to be talking about if Atlanta Faze is the best team in the world, alongside if Chicago is. For me right now, Atlanta Faze is the absolute number one in the world until they face off Chicago, and then we'll see what's going on. Because right now, off just dominance and flat-out performance, Atlanta Faze seem to be the more well-rounded, better team. Chicago didn't really face off against a really strong S&D team compared to what Faze had to. Yeah, it was the subliners in Dallas, but let's just say Dallas was a really good S&D team, and then Faze just obliterated them. And then Chicago, well, just based off the fact that they lost S&D to Dallas, that must mean that Atlanta Faze is better than Dallas in S&D, so they're better than Chicago. That's what I personally, based off those two matches, that's what I'm thinking. But besides that, Atlanta Faze has a really strong respawn. They beat Dallas in hardpoint. That was really close, so Dallas was trying their hardest at that time. And then you have the domination, which Chicago and Atlanta both won easily with like almost a breeze. So if these two faced off, Chicago would have to beat them in a hard point, a domination, and a hard point. At least personally, they would not be able to lose any respawn, or they at least have to take off an S&D and probably take it to game 5 and win the S&D. But that's very hard to do against Atlanta Faze, which have all been specialists at S&D. These kids came from the S&D scene, and I'm pretty sure they've been playing S&D non-stop, especially when the beginning of the year, where they were grinding S&D tourneys probably. If some of Chicago players did do that too, but they didn't do it as hard as probably some of these kids who are just constantly grinding S&D tourneys. So Atlanta Faze, they have Abizi, Priesta, Simp, Celium, and Major Maniac. Priesta was one of the reasons that 100 Thieves was the best team in the world last year. Simp probably arguably was the best player in the world last year and was the rookie of the year last year. And then Abizi was, I guess if Simp wasn't there, we would be talking about Abizi right now. If Simp didn't come in out of nowhere, Abizi would have been the best player in United personally. He'd have to fight against our cities for that, but he would probably be one of the best players and probably be candidate for Rookie of the Year. So that's another great talent right there. And then you got Major Maniac, a leader and vocal man who communicates well and has a very, very good gun skill. Well, not like overwhelming gun skill, but pretty good gun skill. And then you got Celium, who, sure, he didn't impact that much in Black Ops 4, and he didn't like have an overwhelming season. But in this game, you have the other 4 teammates saying Celium's the best player in the game in their regards. So you have a really strong team that stacks well against the Chicago side, which is Scump, Formal, Gunless, Arcides, and Envoy. Envoy was another candidate for Rookie of the Year last year. Got a lot of second places. Sadly, didn't make it to the big one on Champs. And then you got Arcides, the champ, a world champion from last year. Then you got Gunless. Sure, he didn't have the best Black Ops 4 season, but he started off with a bang, and he could easily carry a team in any COD if he wanted to. That's how much talent this man has. Formal, another great, probably one of the best ARs. I'm not gonna say the best ARs ever, because if I say that, YouTube would make me a new one, and if you know what that means, you know what that means. And Scump, the king, who honestly didn't have the most consistent Black Ops 4 season. He started off hot with Vegas, and then went down, and hot, and then went down. And then Champs, that's where he put it all on the line and put all of his best, and his team didn't show up, which just led to a lot of roster moves and a lot of this drama. But now he's looking like another star, and that if he shows what his best is, this team could win. So this is very unique, where you have 2 super teams fighting off, and you're thinking, well, one position has to give, has to give in. One player cannot be that great compared to the others, but every position in these two teams is very strong. You cannot bully one player and then build off of him, which is what Optic has, where they have JCap and you could bully JCap or Kenny, which is, I'm sorry if I'm saying that Kenny's bad. I'm not saying that Kenny's bad. It's just that if you have Kenny in a bad day, you could bully him around and beat him in one-on-one gunfights. But besides that, these two teams are really strong. So personally, I believe Atlanta Faze is better just because they're better in S&D, and they can probably match Chicago in respawns. But S&D, Search and Destroy, Chicago doesn't have it at that level yet. Sure, eventually you'll build up, but right now, Chicago, oh, my bad. Chicago do not have that level of S&D skill yet. So, that sucks. But it sucks for Chicago fans. But these two would be great rivals, since you have really strong respawns. And if you probably had a match between these two, I personally believe if Faze won one respawn and Chicago won 2 respawns and Faze won a S&D, it'd probably go to game 5. I believe this matchup would go to game 5. But I personally believe if it went to game 5, if they played the hardest, Atlanta Faze would win it in the last match, because just of their S&D prowess and being better in S&D. So that's what I believe. I have Atlanta Faze number 1, Chicago number 2, Dallas Empire after they recover number 3, or they could even nudge off Chicago there if they get back to the form they were in online, but I don't know yet. I believe it's still just a one weekend thing where Dallas is shaky and not that great, so we'll have to see about that. And then 4th, I do not know yet. I honestly believe it would be Optic eventually, but right now I probably say Paris Legion maybe. They convinced me that much with their performances, but I don't know yet. It's literally the top 3 we know, and then the bottom of the pack we don't even know, because that's how hard it is to rank these teams just off 2 matches in each team. So we'll have to see about that. Besides that, I still believe Atlanta Faze is the best team right now until they face Chicago, and we'll see what happens there. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this video, and leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one.